What's up, Guardians? Profane here, thanks for checking out the video. Reaching Guardian rank 11 requires completing the most recent dungeon as a solo Guardian, and with Season of Defiance ending in just a week, I wanted to go over an updated guide on how solo Guardians can easily complete this dungeon before Season of Defiance ends. You will need to complete the entirety of this dungeon in one sitting without returning to orbit in order for the solo run to be counted. So we'll be covering all the important tips, tricks, workarounds, and best strategies to make overcoming each of this dungeon's encounters a lot easier. This dungeon contains 2 boss encounters and a handful of jumping puzzles. And within each of these, there are going to be several series of nodes and circuits, like links of a chain. These will need to be activated and connected in specific orders to activate different mechanisms for each activity. You can only activate nodes while you have the Attrition buff, which can be obtained by stepping into the pool that are dropped when defeating any of the Minotaur within each of the encounters. These buffs do have time expirations, but can be extended by activating nodes and defeating more Minotaur. This is a 1600 level activity, and in terms of best loadouts, Warlocks will find it best to stick with Well of Radiance for the boss encounters, utilizing Starfire Protocol, Lunafactions, or Rain of Fire for optimal DPS. Strand and Void Supers can cause the first boss to act very erratic, but an Arc build with the Geomag stabilizers can be a great alternative for both bosses. Ultimately, I found the Arc Strider Hunter with Star Eater scale to be the optimal build for either of the boss encounters. Assassin's Cow can be a great alternative option and exotic choice for survivability, but there's also the Omni Akelous or Gerfalcons to go with a great Void Invis tether build. Hunters should also have the Stompies at the ready for some of the jumping puzzles. Titans will find Solar and Void builds to be the most beneficial throughout this dungeon, with the Heart of Inmost Light or the Loreley being the ideal exotics to build around. Thunderstrike can be an amazing option when it comes to Persys, but the risk of falling off the map makes it less ideal for Akelous. We'll go further into the best weapon choices for each boss encounter as we get to them, but Void weapons, in combination with Shatter Orbs, Volatile Flow, and the Bricks from Beyond seasonal artifact mods, will be highly beneficial, as the Minotaur in each encounter will have Void Shields, providing you with a great way to create orbs, get armor charges, and refuel heavy ammo. Re-establishing power to the Spire is the first of 6 total stages that this dungeon has. This stage requires you to turn on 4 circuits that will open the doorway into the Spire. You will need to obtain the Attrition's buff from a Minotaur, and then complete 2 circuits on each side of the map. If you run out of Attrition's buff, there will be more Minotaur that spawn in. There will also be Vex Cyclops from far above, and Exploding Harpies down below. For the most part, I find it best to leave most of the ads alone and just focus on activating each of the circuits. Most of the explodable harpies will detonate over time and can be easily lured into destroying other Vex. The use of Void and Solar Resistance mods, along with Concussive Dampener, can be highly effective at keeping you alive. Swords with Eager Edge can give you an incredible advantage towards speedrunning this and future sections. Once the doors have been opened, you'll be en route to ascending the tower. But first, you'll need to make it through a jumping puzzle that's filled with harpies, hobgoblins, and hydra, so changing over to sniper resistance mods would be a good idea. A weapon with range will be great for this section, and it will also be a good time for hunters to equip Stompies. The dungeon's first hidden chest is contained within the labyrinth, which we'll make a detour to for those who need to know where it is.
Looking for something more than to imprison Rasputin's subminds. information stored here, but could it be linked to my visions? Why else would the witness be interested in these files?
Once you've made it through the maze, it's time to ascend the tower. This encounter requires you to connect 2 separate circuits on each of the 3 floors. The nodes for each circuit are spread out around the spire, so you'll need to watch your step so that you don't fall off the map. Once you've completed both circuits on each floor, the elevator lift will activate, allowing you to transcend to the next level. As you're activating the nodes, there will be groups of Vex and Hydra that spawn in to distract you, but I find it best to just prioritize activating the nodes. Void, Solar, and Melee Resistance mods will come in handy as well, along with Concussive Dampener mods. On the 2nd and 3rd floors, you will start seeing electrical bands that block certain areas. These emit a lot of concussive arc damage, and you should avoid them at all costs. Once you've connected all of the circuits on all 3 floors, you'll be able to get the first chest of the dungeon, and then it's just a short hop and a jump to the Akelous boss fight. Prepare yourself for a pretty long boss encounter, because this one will take at least 4 to 5 damage phases, if not more. But thankfully the boss doesn't enrage, so you don't have to rush yourself. The most important thing to remember is to play your life above anything else. I mentioned before that void weapons can be very beneficial for heavy ammo economy, and that will certainly be the case here, as you'll have an endless supply of void shielded Minotaur to take advantage of. You also have to factor in the eyes of Akelous. These need to be broken as quickly as possible before you can deal out damage during each damage phase. This causes many Guardians to go with a double special loadout that typically features a trace rifle. A high RPM SMG or auto rifle can be just as effective, especially with Envious Assassin, Target Lock, or Vorpal for weapon traits. Precision weapons will be the most effective towards this boss. Sniper rifles, like the Whisper of the Worm or Cloud Strike, can be especially effective if you're accurate enough to trigger their perks. The Thunderlord and Grand Overture can both make for great heavy options, so can the Retrofit Escapade or Circular Logic, but I find linear fusion rifles to be the most effective against this boss. The Cataclysmic, the Taipan, or Reed's Regret will all be fantastic choices, but I also find the Sleeper Simulant to be highly effective, especially when paired up with the Gathering Storm, that's getting a 4 times damage bonus from Star Eater scale. During this encounter, you'll have to repeatedly activate 4 different circuits that string out through each of the 4 walkways. At the end of each walkway is a fuel rod. All 4 fuel rods need to come down before damage can begin. Once the 4th rod is down, the boss will come to you, so be sure that you take time before activating the last node to clear out enemies, gather ammo, and fuel up armor charges. You'll have a short window of time to damage the boss, and as you do, the boss will retreat back towards the middle area. When each damage phase is over, the boss will force push you away, so be sure that you don't push too close during damage. I find it best to walk along the edge of the walkway as you're dealing damage to the boss, so you can avoid the holes that are in the floor. After each damage phase is done and over with, you'll have to rinse and repeat the process over again by finding the next Minotaur that spawns in, reacquire the Artrition buff, and then reactivate all of the nodes. In all likelihood, you will probably see this being a 4 to 6 damage phase encounter. After defeating Akelous, you're just one jumping puzzle away from the final boss Persys, but before you get there, you'll have to complete another series of circuits and nodes as you descend into the Spire. There will be 3 floors containing series of yellow and red coated circuits. These will be spread out through each room and can be tricky to see from certain angles, and since you have a time limit, be sure to clear out the ads before activating the first nodes. In between each floor are fan traps that you'll need to avoid getting clipped by.
Guardian, what we've seen here proves my visions have merit. I must secure the complex to convince Ikora. Trust is a frail thing. As much as our mission, if this can restore her faith in me, I need this.
In the final floor, you'll encounter Hydra that hang out in the center platform, guarding the 5th node for this floor's circuit. There will also be electrical bands, so you'll need to watch out as you transition into this room. Once you've connected the circuit, the floor panels in the corners of the room will open up, allowing you to drop down into the final boss arena. Before you do, be sure to grab the final hidden chest that's underneath the steps in the only corner that doesn't have an exit. And now we're off to fight Persys, the primordial ruin. This encounter has a lot of mechanics to it, but it's nothing that you haven't seen out of this dungeon already. And in all fairness, I find this to be a much easier encounter than the first boss is. To damage the boss, you'll first have to open the doors to the back area. This happens once the Hydra from each side are defeated. After defeating the Hydra, Minotaur will begin to spawn in, on the left and right sides of the room. Defeat a Minotaur, grab the Artrition's buff, then activate the 5 nodes attached to the red coated circuit that are in the center of the room. As you're completing circuits, you'll have exploding harpies, goblins, and the boss that continuously chase you around. After the first circuit has been activated and the doors have been opened, you will now need to activate 2 out of the 4 yellow-coated circuits that are strung out through the perimeter of the room and lead into the back area. And before completing 2 circuits, you need to ensure that the boss is in the back room. You'll need to keep an eye out on your Artrition's buff, because once you have connected the 2 circuits, you'll need to get back to the front room quickly and close the doors using the red-coated circuits on the pillars. If you end up not being able to complete the red circuit in time, you will miss out on a damage phase and have to rinse and repeat the process over again. As long as you get the red circuit connected, you'll transition to damage phase. This is a mobile boss, but he moves rather slowly. He's very powerful though, with a strong stomp mechanic, and very hurtful void blasts, so having void resistance and concussive dampener mods will be very beneficial. For optimal DPS, you'll want to consider using the Wither Horde in combination with something like the Wendigo or Hothead rocket launcher with explosive light. The Thunderlord and Grand Overture can deal out a massive amount of damage against this boss. Just be sure that you have all 20 rockets preloaded in the Grand Overture and ready to fire onto the boss when damage phase begins. The Anarchy can also be highly effective for continuous damage over time. The most important thing, just like in the Akelous encounter, is playing your life. You'll want to back up as you're dealing out damage to the boss, so you can avoid the brutal attacks. And as soon as the damage phase is over, you'll want to beeline back to the back room, where you can get cover to take on the resummoned Hydras. You can remain in the back room until the Minotaur begin to spawn in, where you'll need to reactivate the red and yellow coded circuit. Realistically, you should expect anywhere between 4 and 6 damage phases for this boss. The important thing is just playing your life. Don't rush yourself and don't overextend, and keep an eye on your attrition buff. There is an available boss cheese that can make this encounter much easier. This cheese will work in the master difficulty as well, with the use of an arc build with storm grenades and the spark of shock fragment. You can lure the boss to the back room generator, where you can glitch out his health bar, causing him to instantly die. This can be achieved by hitting the group of Vex with a storm grenade at the precise moment just before they spawn in. The group of ads needs to be close enough to the boss so that it would trigger Jolt. I would avoid using the Hunter's Gathering Storm Super for this, as it can cause you to get error coded. But by using the storm grenades, you can achieve this boss cheese on any of the 3 classes. It might take a few attempts to get the timing right, so I would recommend stacking your discipline and using grenade kickstart mods to regenerate grenade energy quicker if you are attempting the cheese. If you are error coded or get returned to orbit for any reason during your time in this dungeon, or if a friend randomly joins you out of nowhere because your fire team was left open, you will get disqualified from a solo run and will not get credit towards the Triumph or Guardian ranks. You would have to start the entire dungeon back over again. And with that, I believe we've covered damn near everything you need to know so that you can overcome the Spire of the Watchers dungeon as a solo Guardian before Season of the Defiance ends. To which I wish you all the best of luck throughout your efforts through the rest of this season. Let me know how your runs are going, and let me know what your thoughts about next season's dungeon and next season's Guardian ranks are. Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.